Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's Sean Mitchell, All Things EV, and on this episode, I've got Dave Lee from the Dave Lee Investing YouTube channel here, and we're going to riff about Tesla. Dave, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Awesome.
Yeah, good to have you.
It's nice being here in Colorado.
Welcome.
Yeah.
And you've been traveling around.
Yeah.
Probably looking forward to getting back home and getting into a little bit more of a routine, right?
It's been almost I think 3 or 4 months on the road. So
yeah.
It's been rough, but it's been good.
Good.
Yeah.
So for those that don't follow your channel, give like the 30-second on what you cover, maybe how you got started with the channel and what you typically cover.
Yeah, so my channel is kind of an outgrowth of my personal investing style and experience. So I'm not really trying to recruit an audience or push a certain investing philosophy per se. But my kind of journey has been, my first part of my investing journey was kind of setting aside a certain amount of assets and resources for stability and safety. And then I had another kind of basket where I kind of went all in on a big kind of play, something that could return many, many times of investments. And that is where my passion and excitement lies. I feel there's a lot of people on finance and investing that talk about index funds and dividends and real estate, all this stuff for the more stability side. But I'm more interested in how can you find a generational company that can 10x within 5 or 10 years? And is that reproducible? Can you actually do it over again? And that's something that question has been, I don't say plaguing me, but interesting me for many, many years. And that's how I kind of found Tesla, but it's also the reason why, I'm so vigilant in monitoring it, because my whole question is, does it still have, a 5 or 10x potential over the next 10 years? And it's something I want to leave behind to my kids, like all of these lessons for them to be able to take that. And along in the journey, I'm sharing that publicly so others can kind of, take what they want to take from this journey. But yeah, that's kind of my unique angle in investing is I'm not trying to be like other channels.
Right.
I'm really just, focused on more of these 10x generational opportunities. Is it reproducible? Right? What are the key principles involved?
I like the organic aspect to it. Yeah, you're just kind of sharing your journey.
Yeah.
Your journey in investing. Was there a company in the beginning or a company that got you thinking, gosh, I really need to look at these 10x companies? Like, was it Apple that you thought, I missed that boat, or Google, I missed that boat, and I want to get the next 10x company?
So there are a few things. One is actually Apple. We actually was our first big kind of move in investing, where we didn't have enough capital at that time. I just got married, but we actually started an app company right when the App Store opened in 2008. Mm-hmm. And we ended up making one of the most successful health and fitness apps out there. It was like a top 5 app for, I don't know, at least 5 or 10 years, actually, in the beginning. But that app, as the proceeds grew and the savings grew, that became kind of, I won't say a headache, but another challenge. We're like, okay, what do we do next? What's our next move with investing? So we actually moved into real estate. So in 2008 to 2012, we actually we knew what was going on because I've been following some timing experts. There's a guy named Bruce Norris in Southern California. He's one of the best, and he predicted in 2005 that in 2008 it would crash like crazy. And so we were following him, and we knew that this was an opportunity of a lifetime in 2009 to 12. And so we started buying some properties, thinking that this was going to be kind of our big investment, in the future. After a few properties and renting them out, dealing with tenants, I started to feel like, I don't know if this is what I really want to do long term. I had some tenants where they were just like, there's a tension, where I wanted to just help them and just be the best I can. And there was already mistrust. And I'm like, what is this? What am I doing this for? And real estate also is a little bit, I won't say slow, but it's like I don't know if that was what I wanted to put my passion into. So in 2011, 12, I started to shift focus. And I'm like, okay, our business is doing well, but I think the App Store, I'm not sure if I want to spend 100-hour weeks doing business. I wanted to do something where I can invest as well. And so that's when I started looking into Elon Musk.
Yeah.
And that kind of started my Tesla journey then.
So let's talk about Tesla a little bit, which I'm sure most of the viewers and listeners want to know about. Looking at where the company is at, and they've come a long way. They've come a long way, and it's great to see them finally succeeding in terms of profitability. What excites you most about the company right now?
Yeah, I mean, I still think Tesla is underrated in a lot of ways. And I think people still don't understand why Tesla got to where they got to. And I think a lot of the engineering kind of focus that Tesla has, they have like the top of the top, their software expertise. I think Tesla doesn't get the recognition that they need to get. They are one of the best AI companies out there. And this is I think it's the next, what I call green pasture. It's the area that's going to be growing the most over the next 10 years, which is artificial intelligence. It's going to radically transform, I think, almost every industry out there. And Tesla has one of the best teams. And not just that, they have the market that's already proven, which is they have these transport AI or transport devices that are becoming more intelligent and will transition to fully intelligent vehicles that drive themselves. And then they transition into the bot. So what Tesla has going for them is, we're talking about a true, not just a tech company, but a software company, but we're talking about one of the best AI companies in the world, right at the time in history where AI is going to transform an entire society, and where most of the AI companies are just doing software alone, and Tesla is one of the few that's willing to go hardware, right, with transport and with robots. And so it's an open field, and I don't see another company with as big of a addressable market as Tesla has going forward the next 10 or 20 years. And so, yeah, there's a lot to be bullish about Tesla, I think.
The software piece is really transferable. I mean, because they are so good, the software can be transferable to automobiles. It can be transferred to workforce labor with an AI bot if they decide to go that direction with the product. Virtual power plants. To me, this has been a really impressive one that Tesla has been able to navigate well, in my opinion, with this most recent energy crisis in California with the heat wave. The software piece does really, I think that's their secret. That's their secret to success, is to be able to navigate that. Software will take over any sort of industry. Vertical.
I think what's interesting is I don't think Tesla started out as being like the most amazing software company out there. They're pretty good. They're decent. They got the job done. But as they scaled the Model S and X and Model 3, they actually really heavily invested into software, mostly AI, right? And I think what's interesting is, like, I've been a tech nerd from like forever, but I've seen like all these companies, like come and go, but some remain, like the Apples and Amazons and Googles. But what's interesting is, once you have a lead in a truly like network effect market, where the network, as it grows, the value of the network increases exponentially. What happens is, if you actually have the lead and are able to keep on increasing that lead, you usually will take most of that market. It's not like a monopoly almost, right? Like what Google has. And so what Tesla has right now is, and people don't completely get it, most people right now, because it hasn't like happened fully. Meaning in 10 years we'll look back, I think, and what we'll see is, wow, how did Tesla like completely dominate the transport market in terms of profits and also margins and everything? How are they dominating the whole robot industry? And it's because they started out with a lead and they kept on pushing that lead. No one was able to catch them, and they took over this network effect market where it really mattered how many people and what was going on in their product and market. And that is like the story I think that people are missing, about Tesla.
You think about first movers in a market that really kind of disrupt it, and they become the name. Kleenex is a good example, right? Like, it just becomes synonymous with the actual product. You go grab a tissue, you call it a Kleenex, or you get a ride share, and usually you call it an Uber. Hey, I'm gonna get an Uber, even though it may be Lyft or something else. And it's possible that someday our kids might call a car or some sort of transportation we're going to get a Tesla, even though it may not be a Tesla, but it's become sort of the golden standard, which is really fascinating to me.
Yeah.
Where do you see Tesla's biggest risk at?
Yeah, I look at it, it's changed a lot, right? So if you were asked this question 4 or 5 years ago, when Tesla's still hasn't ramped Model 3, and Elon Musk is tweeting all this stuff, and there's the SEC and all this stuff, I would give a different set of risks, right?
Yeah.
And timeline of those risks. But right now, Tesla has really executed well over the past 5 or 10 years, where they've actually bought themselves, I think, a long runway. It's like if you look at Apple, if Tim Cook isn't there, Apple continues on for a long time, right? Same thing with Google or Amazon. And with Tesla, even without, let's say, Elon Musk, Tesla goes on for another 5+ years without really, I think, a big hiccup. They still have so many lines of cars to roll out. FSD is already it's already to the point where it just needs to finish this job. And so there's so much that Tesla has where the risks are more, in my opinion, twofold. One is you have a longer term risk of Tesla becoming lazy or losing its focus. The thing is, Elon is so focused that it's hard to imagine that risk with Elon at the helm. So therefore, it would probably be if Elon was out of the picture, another typical CEO comes, tries to do a lot of MBA stuff, and the second risk is more like on a valuation risk, is more that there's going to be ups and downs in Tesla's business. For example, we look at the price of a Tesla car right now, right? It's gone up tremendously. Sure, there's been inflation, but Tesla's cars has probably gone up more. And there's great demand. So you have this kind of a positive scenario where Tesla is able to have high margins, they have high demand, big waiting lists. But will that really continue on consistently over the next 5 or 10 years? There's likely going to be ups and downs. There might be a time where, used car prices start to normalize, even go down as new car prices do too. Maybe Tesla has a lower price, and maybe there isn't a big waiting list. Maybe margins might get pressured at some time. And there are these times where it's going to test the resolve of Tesla, and also how investors value the company. And so I don't look at that as more necessarily a huge long-term risk. It's more like if you follow the company, if you invested in the company, there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be a roller coaster of how people value the company, and I kind of expect it. I expect there's going to be a lot of volatility, and I'm okay with that as long as I see the company over the next 10 years executing toward these crazy ambitious goals, which I think they're doing right now.
Is FSD the most promising product for Tesla? I know you talked about artificial intelligence, which does sort of branch out into every aspect in product, but what's their most valuable product, in your opinion?
Yes. So there's hypothetical products, for example, the Tesla bot.
Yes. Yeah.
By far, the Tesla bot is going to be, if Tesla succeeds with that, it's going to be the most revolutionary product in the history of the world. I mean, we're talking about, there is almost no limits to it. And if you think about the concept of an artificial intelligence, AI bot, robot, eventually a bot, and if you kind of suspend our kind of biases on time. So let's say whether this takes 10 years or 100 years or 1,000 years, let's just take a step back and say, if there is a truly, let's say, super intelligent robot, can't that robot actually make more robots themselves? And can't they make their own factories? Can't they actually dig for minerals, repair themselves? Can't they make new versions of themselves? So if you look at the bot in that picture, the bot is kind of the final product of all products. It's the end product in a sense. And we don't know how that's going to materialize and who's going to own that or who's going to steward that, how the governments are going to be involved, etc. But the trajectory of where all this is headed, whether it takes a long time or a short time, is this is the final product. And it actually destroys the cap, the limitation of value creation. Meaning if a robot can actually mine their own minerals, create their own rockets, build their own factories, repair themselves, and make new versions of themselves, then there is no limit to value creation. Meaning GDP has no meaning anymore because we've lived in thousands of years of human history where we've always been limited in terms of economic output. But the bot is going to destroy all of those concepts. And so we're talking about you think trillions of dollars in market cap is a lot. This is almost nothing if Tesla succeeds with this. But what I call it, and why I call it a hypothetical product right now is because it's not proven, right? We don't know for sure when this is coming out, what it's going to look like, etc. And right now it's anyone's guess about whether Tesla can succeed. My hypothesis, my conviction or opinion is I actually think Tesla will do it. I think they're by far in first place. As long as they continue to do what they're doing, I think they actually will succeed with Tesla Bot. I think if Elon is out of the picture right now for the next 2 years, 3 years, I don't think they can do it. I think it's too competitive. But I think with Elon at the helm, with his focus and Tesla's specialty of AI, I think they're going to actually make it happen. And if they do, this is going to wipe out anything about, cars are nothing. FSD is nothing compared to the Tesla Bot, basically.
Yeah, I think the precursor, I totally follow you there because the precursor really, to get a glimpse of what the possibilities are for a bot like that is FSD.
Yeah.
Because, if they can successfully execute on this vision product for FSD, it's transferable to a bot immediately because, if the car can identify things, then it's just a matter of carrying that over to identifying other things that aren't on the highway, that are in buildings and people and conversations. And it's a matter of time before that starts to spill over outside of the lines in the road to other parts of people's lives. Yeah. So FSD is really the precursor. And I think that what impresses me now, the missing of the deadlines does not impress me. I'll just make that clear. But I think what impresses me the most about it is how far they've come in terms of what you see the vehicle display on the screen. Like to go from reality to being able to, for the car to have to display what's seen. That there's a big jump there. Yeah. And if the car can see it, then you can teach the car how to respond to that in different ways. So the vision, the FSD vision, I think, is the linchpin to a bot succeeding.
Yeah. The way I look at it, Tesla has their current product, which are their cars, right? And then they have this coming product, which is FSD.
Yeah.
I think it's imminent. Who knows whether it's going to be, a few months or several years. But within a short period of time, FSD is here. And then you have this hypothetical or future product, which is the Tesla robot, right? Most people aren't going to be able to, I think, take the robot into their current valuations and really bet a lot on it. But FSD is something interesting, right? Because you can test it out, you can actually drive it, you can see its progress.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's a close second place right now. I think Tesla has really shown themselves to be way out there, their capabilities. And I think what is underestimated about Tesla's FSD is this is on the road right now. These are real people driving it. And this is like life and death situation.
Sure.
Right? If you go onto, let's say, the wrong lane or wrong track, wrong place, you just make the wrong turn, it could be death like that, And so what Tesla's doing is really, really hard stuff. And they really have to be careful. And I think people underestimate how careful Tesla has been. You have these hit pieces against Tesla saying, oh, Tesla's reckless, all this stuff. But it's actually the opposite. Tesla's been hyper, concerned with safety. That's how they've gotten to this point. But they pair it together with this urgency of time where they want to push it as fast as they can. And this dual kind of focus of Tesla, hyper focus on safety, but also focus on speed of innovation. This is why Tesla is winning. But it also trips up people because they're like, how can a company move so fast, right? They just don't understand it.
Yeah, when I hear critics talk about, there was one video in particular that I saw recently. A critic of FSD posted a video from Kim Paquette, my friend, and it was driving down a very tight street. There were cars on both sides. and it passed a couple of people that were getting into a car on the right-hand side. The FSD did not recognize those individuals on the screen. However, it got to a crosswalk. It saw that there was someone who was on their way across the crosswalk, but the car stopped. And so this critic basically was complaining that it didn't recognize the people next to the car, but in reality, the bigger risk was the person walking in the middle of the road. And so I'm like, it did a significant thing by recognizing and stopping the real threat, which was the car running into the human in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
But it didn't hit the people that were not in danger because they were close to the car. Whether or not that the car saw them, it didn't hit them. There was no threat in that case. And so I would agree with you that I think that what can get lost is this huge focus on caution with FSD. They even rolled back some software updates, right? When they felt like it wasn't safe enough. They're paying attention. They're definitely paying attention.
Yeah, I mean, with FSD, so I've had FSD for about a year, and what strikes me about FSD, especially the first few months when I was driving it all the time, is how difficult driving is. Like, there would be times where I'm like, oh my gosh, just the task of driving in certain situations, it's so hard. There's so many nuanced factors. And for Tesla to improve the way they're doing, it actually, these missed timelines, in a way, it makes me actually more bullish on it. And the reason why is because it shows how difficult this task is.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Tesla did underestimate how difficult full self-driving is going to be, probably by at least an order of magnitude, if not more, right?
Sure.
But what this shows is that it's going to be that much harder for other companies to solve this problem as well, right? If it was easy, then you'd have like 10, 20 companies, solving it. But you don't have a single company that really seems close to solving in a generalized way, right? Without HD maps and all that stuff. But what Tesla is doing is they're really close, and they're showing that I don't know if there's like a second place. And Elon, he mentioned that he thinks they're 5 years ahead, right? And that's something that I've mentioned in the past. Like, I actually think they're 5 years ahead at least, just because of what they've been able to do, pushing forward this vision only, AI-focused, data-driven, solution. Extremely bullish on their efforts.
The artificial intelligence piece, as I kind of mentioned before, is it can be carried over to their whatever products that they come out with, to be honest, because they're so heavily software-driven. Specific to automotive, do other companies survive? Do other automotive companies survive if they're laggards on the software side, which has been the case for many decades? Like, you get into a gas vehicle and the infotainment system is 10, 20 years behind the actual manufacturing date of the vehicle. Do other automotive companies survive, in your opinion? And who in your opinion is in jeopardy the most? Yeah.
So I mean, before, like, back in like 2014, 15, I was writing a bunch of articles on Tesla Motors Club, and I was like, man, I called it a slow motion train wreck for other automakers. I'm like, this is going to be bad news. In the 2020s, we're going to see a lot of bankruptcies. And I think what's happened is interesting is the government is stepping in, right, to offer incentives, right, for, let's say, batteries, EV tax credits, all this stuff. And in a sense, it's like propping up a lot of these companies that, probably would have a hard time transitioning. Now they've got hundreds of billions of dollars at their disposal. So what's going to happen, in my opinion, is there's going to be a dichotomy. If you would have left it alone without government intervention, I don't think most of these OEMs, IC makers, would survive the next 10 years. But with government intervention, what you're going to have is they're going to survive, but they're not going to be AI-focused, self-driving cars, premium, high margin, all this stuff. You're going to have a fight for the bottom. You're going to have these cars that are just cars, right? Human-driven cars, and they're all going to fight for the cheapest kind of position.
Sure.
Right? And they're going to be low margin. They're going to make some money because the government is supporting them. But that's basically most of the automakers. And then you're going to have Tesla at this other extreme, where they're actually making money. It's kind of like Apple, taking most of the profits of the whole phone industry, but Tesla making money, taking most of the profits of the industry, actually being a true software AI company, moving cars into self-driving. And you might have a few other companies vying for second place with Tesla, right? And it's also regional too, because China might protect their borders and they'll have, a couple Chinese companies vying for that position as well. But yeah, I look at it as more this, dichotomy. Automakers, they will probably transition, but it'll be, low margin, low cost. And, that's good for some people who just want to drive, but Tesla's going to hit, I think, a different market. They're going high margin, self-driving cars. It's going to be interesting.
The self-driving piece is, I think, Tesla's opportunity to leapfrog, most of the automotive industry, because they, as you said before, they're doing something that no other automotive company is willing to do on the software side of things. I mean, I think that you have companies like GM acquiring self-driving technology, but in 5 years, will that technology even be relevant compared to what Tesla is working on? So interesting to see for sure. So as of this recording, we're filming middle of September 2022. What's Tesla look like in 5 years, in your opinion? Where is Tesla at? If you were to have a crystal ball, what do they look like? Yeah.
So let's go backwards from the bot first, then FSD, and then cars, because I think the bot is the most unknown. So we have AI Day 2 coming up this month, and then I would imagine there'll be several other AI days. Tesla's showing off the bots. In 5 years, Tesla might have a bot you can buy. It might be a bit pricey. It won't be perfect, but I think what Tesla will show is just like how they are pushing the envelope and taking risks and just going for it with the FSD side, you're going to see them take crazy big risks and push this fast with the bot side. Because if you think about it, Elon knows that the bot is actually perhaps orders of magnitude more valuable than even FSD ultimately in the long-term future. So he's going to, and that's why he's already prioritizing the bot's development this year. Like, who in the world would conceive that Elon Musk is prioritizing, right, Tesla bot as the top priority? But he is. And so in 2027, I think more and more people understand that Tesla is more than a car company, more than even an AI company. They're becoming this, all-encompassing product of the end of the basically the future product of all, company. So I think in that sense, we might not see a ton of revenue, but I think the excitement for Tesla will still be there. Yeah. And people will be very excited. You're going to, lots of people buying into the vision. Hopefully Elon is still, leading the company. If we move backward to FSD, I think, 5 years is a long time for FSD. Yeah. I think we're going to see robotaxis on a lot of places, and growing very fast. I don't think we're going to see another company that's close. And I would be surprised if another company even has a generalized solution that they're beta testing with 100,000 customers 5 years from now. It's just, I don't know, man. I think, it's going to be tough. But yeah, that will lead to a lot of profits. You're going to see Tesla, I think, continue to grow. 5 years from now, 2027, right? Mm-hmm. Probably, I'm not sure about the exact figures, but probably like 5 to 7 million vehicles per year, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. If you look toward, let's say 2032, they're tracking for 20 million a year or so. And in terms of the vehicle side, you're going to have a more fuller lineup. Of course, you have semi and Cybertruck, but you're going to have probably a few other cars like that fill out the gaps. Maybe a smaller robotaxi car, maybe a bigger van. You have, just these big factories producing, millions of these cars. Mm-hmm. And I think overall, the big story that is going to shock people is their margins. Mm-hmm. So I think this was about last year or so. I was thinking, okay, if you take Tesla, what would their valuation be in 4 or 5 years today? And if they can make 5 million cars a year, how much money can they make per car? And so I'm like, I think they can make $10,000 per car, let's say operating profit. If you look at that, if it's $50,000 ASP, that's actually 20% operating margins. But they're actually almost at 20% right now. So 10,000 per car is actually could be a conservative number. Of course, their ASP could go down if they go to lower models, but their ASP can actually go up with FSD, option and all that stuff. So this is actually, I think, a decent 10,000 figure just to play around with. But with, let's say, 5 million cars, and you're making, $10,000 per car, that's what, $50 billion of operating profits.
Which is just on the hardware side, right? Like it's just
without robotaxi, without Tesla Energy, without anything else, right? And that's actually, pretty impressive. And then, I think what people will be surprised with over time is Tesla's able to get these high operating margins and surprise people with profitability. And that will, I think, be the story of Tesla over the next 5 years. Just year after year. And people will complain, like, why is Tesla valued so highly? What's up with their valuation? But they're going to be chasing the company a lot. Unless there's, of course, a market crash, which could lower, the valuation. But I think generally, that's the story, I'm saying.
Do you think that, I see that often how Tesla's overvalued. Do you think at the point these people who say that they're overvalued right now, do you think that they'll change their opinion when Tesla sort of like peaked in terms of growth? Is that when these conservative thinkers will finally say, okay, their valuation is right on par with where I expect?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Apple kind of had to go through that stage where early iPhone, first 5 or 6 years, people thought Apple was overvalued, and then eventually Warren Buffett, all these people piled in because it was like, it made sense to them, right? And the thing is, you imagine something similar to happen to a Tesla, which it could happen. But the thing that Tesla has, which Apple doesn't, is they're pushing the next big thing that's bigger than their current thing. Like, for example, if Apple had the next big thing that was bigger than the iPhone, right? That would confuse people. And it would actually make Apple's valuation much higher and more uncomfortable for people who didn't believe in the next big thing, right? And so Warren Buffett would be like, maybe I'm out of here, right? So that's what FSD does. But there's also the Tesla robot too. And so when will like a Warren Buffett type person invest in Tesla? I don't know. Because Tesla's always pushing that next big thing. And then there's always Tesla Energy, which is going to be huge too, in the next 20 years. So, we'll see, how things evolve and change. But already more and more institutional investors, more and more big players are coming into the story, buying into the Tesla story. So it could over time, become more of this thing where it's acceptable, right? Tesla as investment for more people. But, we'll see. That's what gets me most excited though, is Tesla has the next big thing that they're working on that's bigger than their current thing. Yeah. Right. And the next big thing that's bigger than the thing that's, they're hoping to release even the next few years. So this is pretty crazy.
They seem to take a different approach in terms of how they announce their products, where Apple will typically announce their product when it's basically ready to come out, when they're ready to sell it. Tesla, it seems like they'll announce it many years before it actually is either a viable product or a sellable product. I mean, semi-truck, roadster, Cybertruck, I suppose, are good examples. And I guess, you can say that external factors have delayed those. But, FSD is a really good example of that, how its final product probably won't see maturity for several other years. And so they've been working on this, saying it's going to come out, for 5, 6, 7 years. But the impact, once they do get it, once they do get that as a full final product, not in beta, it will be huge. And people who saw that it was huge when they first made the announcement will be right, I think, historically. I think the software piece just has an opportunity to run the company in terms of profit margin. Once they create it, it is transferable. So, we touched a little bit on storage and home solar power. Having software that runs the home, having AI that runs the home, I think is another opportunity for them. They've already sort of dipped their toes in the water with energy production with solar, battery storage, energy storage. What's the next thing? I mean, they can really sort of fan out from there in terms of what the software can control in the house. There's a lot of possibility there that maybe they talk about in AI Day. Maybe they talk about it in Master Plan Part 3. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I think that what's interesting is Elon is the type of person that can manage or oversee big things as minor secondary projects. So, for example, I mean, some people will say this is heresy, like no way, like Tesla Energy is priority, etc. But in reality, like Elon can't focus on more than a few big things, right? He's focusing on Starship, and he's focusing on FSD Beta and Tesla Robot. Other than that, like really, most of his things are secondary things. And they're not. It's not to say that they're not important. They're super important, crucial to the mission, and they need to happen. But they're not occupying like most of his brain cells, right?
Sure.
And so Elon can oversee Tesla Energy, right? Solar, batteries, all that stuff. Even 4680 production. He can oversee new factories. He can oversee new products like a Cybertruck, a semi, a Tesla van, and whatever. All this stuff as secondary projects, right? And that's what's really interesting to me. Even like AI in the house, whatever, like air conditioning, all this, that's all secondary projects. And I think what's unique about how Tesla's gotten to this place is Elon has this unique knack of knowing what to hyper-focus on. And so you think that the robot, like who would hyper-focus on a robot right now? Like that seems so strange. But for him, he understands that this is the ultimate prize. And if you don't hyper-focus on it, there's going to be a startup that raises billions of dollars. It's going to hyper-focus on it, have 1,000 people on it, and they're going to have this huge lead before you even catch up. So he understands, like, you've got to hyper-focus on what's really important. And that's why, like, that's the story of Tesla is, sure, cars are cool, FSD is cool, all this stuff, and Tesla Energy and batteries and solar is all cool. But that's not what they're really focused on. And that's, like, strange. It's so weird to think like that. Because you imagine a car company, they focus on cars. But it just shows that, of course, anything can go wrong. And the story of Tesla becoming this, steward of this AGI or even AI robot could falter and fall apart. But if it does happen, that's how it happens. Every CEO would focus on the cars. We focus on the factory. We focus on the batteries. We focus on all this stuff, managing the company. It's like only Elon Musk, maybe there's, I don't know, some other people, only Elon Musk, at least I know, would hyper-focus on this, super intelligent robot of the future as his top priority, as well as with FSD Beta. Interesting.
Well, I think that's a good note to wrap up on. Dave, thanks for coming on and riffing on Tesla and the future of Tesla. Really insightful stuff. Where can people find you on YouTube and Twitter and anywhere else? On YouTube, Dave Lee on Investing, Twitter, HeyDave7. That's about it. I don't really have much. I don't have courses. I don't have Patreon. I don't have anything I'm selling or doing. I'm just, my channel and my stuff is just kind of, I want to help people along the journey. And so, I definitely, and I do have a parenting channel as well. Ooh, that's a smaller channel, but, I have a completely kind of different way to approach parenting that I love talking about. So I occasionally post there as well. Okay. Where can people find that one?
It's called Dave Lee on Life.
Love it. Love it. Great. Well, thanks again. And have a safe journey back to Texas.
Will do. Thanks, Sean. Nice meeting you. Appreciate it. Okay.